The next session is going to be led by Mr. Paul Manning. I'm very grateful to Paul for facilitating our next session. A brief introduction on Paul. Paul is the Chief Audit Executive at the International Atomic Energy Agency, based in Vienna. He's over 30 years experience in internal auditing, investigations and risk management and consulting with organisations across the commercial, public and non-profit sectors in Europe and globally. Paul has been a council member of the CIA in the UK and Ireland since 2015, and he was president and chairman between 2018 and 2020. He was elected to the ECIA Management Board in 2019. Paul, it is great to hear from you, and I'm looking forward to this session.
And thank you very much, Stephen. I hope I'm coming through loud and clear. It was a bit embarrassing, actually. I did a web chat thing a short while ago, and only realised after the first 2 minutes that although everyone in the room I was in could hear me, no one could hear me online. So it's always good to check these things. Anyway, so thanks again. Hello from a rainy and locked down Vienna, but hopefully the one thing that we will be doing today is unlocking rather than locking up information, at least. So welcome to the world of cybersecurity, which is becoming a greater and greater part of our lives. And welcome to the two presenters, two speakers, two panelists even, that we're very lucky to have with us today. So Andres Peral is Information Systems Security Director at, and I'm going to get this wrong, I'm sure. I should have practiced this one beforehand. Is it Frey? The way it's pronounced, is that okay? Yeah, good. Okay, Frey. He has over 20 years experience in cybersecurity, including in consulting, assessing companies' information security. He also has a master's degree in telecommunications engineering, as well as cybersecurity certifications, including CISA, CISSP, and CISM. And it always sounds like a bit of an alphabet soup, but I guess, again, it gives us comfort that you know what you're talking about. Our second panelist is Daniel Lagacha. Daniel is the Global SOC Director at Frey. He also has over 20 years experience in cybersecurity, working in telco and several consultancy firms. He has a master's degree in IT engineering and an MBA in insurance, which I guess makes him very well suited to this conversation, as well as cybersecurity certifications, including CISA, CISSP, CHFI, and ISO 27001 lead auditor. So as you'll see, both Andres and Daniel have lots of experience to draw on, and I'm very much looking forward to listening to them this morning. So over the next hour, we're going to be on an illuminating journey with our two speakers, and one that I think, from having seen the material, promises to be scary as we look at a growing risk area for all our organisations, but also hopefully encouraging in seeing what we can do to manage those risks. After a brief opening question, our speakers will be presenting a case study to show us how some things can unfold in the real world, including a cyber attack and some practical countermeasures. Then we'll have a Q&A session to draw out a few key themes. And finally, depending on how time goes, we might have a chance for a bit of audience participation at the end with a few questions. So please do think as we're going along about any questions that you might have for our speakers later on in the session. First of all, though, I'd like to invite each panelist to offer some opening thoughts from their own perspective on the following question. What is the key lesson learned for internal auditors from the cyber attack experience? So, Andre, if you could possibly go first, and then Daniel after that. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Pascal, for the introduction. I think the key point an internal auditor can extract from our experience, I should point to preparation. From a large company like us, need a strong internal auditing team that let's say forces the companies to be prepared to events like this. Because if you are not prepared to respond to an event like this, everything can be like a disaster, and you won't be able to provide services to your customers. So I think the key point where you internal auditors can help the company is to be prepared to an event like this. Daniel, if you...
I would, thank you, Anders. I would say 2 points. Okay, I think that 2 main benefits that can help the company for internal auditor are: first, acting as a additional layer of control in order to get evidence that the security controls that are in place are effective and also are efficient, because additional point of view about how to protect the company are always welcome. And then, as a secondary objective, to help the information security teams to help to make the awareness to the top management about how about the emerging risk that we have regarding the cyber risk.
Great. Thank you very, very much, both of you, for that, and in particular, maybe for the point about the importance of efficiency as well as effectiveness, because I guess it's sometimes very tempting to put in a lot of controls, which might not necessarily be the right way forward and might actually hamper the delivery of your business. So getting that balance right, I think, is key. And certainly thinking about my own audit work plan, with so much sensitive data at our fingertips, I really sort of feel for you. You know, the need to try and make sure that data is both available and secure. You know, there must be a sort of tension there. So again, you know, I think sort of very much a focus for us as auditors, as well as for the IT professionals or IT security professionals. Thank you very, very much. I think that's got us warmed up. So maybe now I can hand over to the 2 of you to take us into your case study. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paul. First of all, I would like to thank the organization for giving us the opportunity to be here with you. This is we're going to talk about the cyber attack that we suffered in August. That was a very dramatic situation, but we are happy to be here to share our experience, thought, and we would be very, very happy. And if this presentation helps you to face a situation like that. Okay. First of all, let me introduce a little bit about MAPFRE. MAPFRE is an international insurance group. We have operation over 34 countries. We are in the top 15 insurance firms in Europe, and our main operation, of course, we are the biggest in Spain, and we also have operations all around the world, especially in Turkey, Brazil, all Central America and South America, and also we have operation in North America. As some facts, we have close to 34,000 employees, and we are over 1,000. We have over 1,000 agents and brokers. We work with them, and also over 30 million customers around the globe, around the world. Okay. Also, to put that in context, it's always obvious to everyone that last year was a difficult year, especially in Spain, that we have a very strict lockdown for 3 months. The external environment was significantly aggravated by the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, this accelerated and modified our environment in several points. Okay, first of all, as I told you, what the lockdown led to a mass adoption of teleworking in all of the companies in Spain, resulting in a suddenly diffuse and less controlled perimeter that put the companies in a risky situation. Okay. Additional large companies like Mapfre, we were more prone to attack than small companies due to the lack of agility to quickly adapt the security countermeasure to this new environment. Okay, in this scenario, it was the scenario of the lockdown. Our main objective was to guarantee the continuity of the operation because of the survival of the company, but also because as an insurance company, our main objective is to support our customers in difficult situations as we were living at that moment. Okay. In this context, criminal organization had the perfect environment to put all of their efforts to complete or to do a sophisticated cyber attack to the company, as we have seen in the past year that we have a very big increase to this situation. Okay. This led Mapfre to make a security reinforcement plan, what we call the SRP, in order to increase our security posture in a very short term to be able to respond to this new context. Okay, our security plan was mainly based in three main pillars. Okay, first of all, preliminary risk of the risk identification, then address risk that was supposed to be increased, and then but not least, but not the less important, to increase the awareness of the measures of the people in order to make the measures and the security control effective. Okay. Let me also tell you that we could consider, myself, I could consider Mapfre in a very mature position in the security posture. Okay. Some facts, I can tell you that we ran our security operations center since 2008. Sorry, we have this security operations center running 24 hours a day and 300 and every day of the overall year. And also we are part of the first organization, which is the international association that connects all the security center all around the world from all the company. Indeed, we were the second insurance company to enter in that association. Okay, please, if you can go forward the next slide. However, the 14th of August, we were hit by a ransomware attack that, and as a consequence, we have a very big impact in our operation. Okay. From the point of view of the attack, we could say that the attack was very well prepared, since the attackers used specific IT tools and also specific IT infrastructure like phishing domains and IP address located in friendly countries, also in countries that where we operate. So it was not identifying those attacks was not as easy as seeing IPs coming from outside Europe. okay, or from countries where we do not have operation. Also, we can say that it was a very sophisticated attack, since they built specific tools to be successful in the attack. Also, for even for network recognition, privilege escalation, or also for deploying the malware. And also, we can say that it was specifically designed for Frey, since the ransomware that they used was specifically built to avoid our antivirus, and also all of the countermeasures that we have surrounding the antivirus. Okay, I can tell you that we don't have a standard antivirus in place. We built over the last 2 years some specific countermeasures using the antivirus to be to counterattack ransomware attack. Okay, they were very proficient in analyzing those countermeasures and avoiding them in order to be successful. As a result, all main operations in Mafia Spain were affected at that day. And also, it is relevant to know for you is that the 14th of August in Spain is the weekend with the busiest activity, especially for the call center, since most of the people in that month is on vacation, and that weekend, in fact, is the weekend with the highest rate of mobility. Okay, so for us was a very critical situation, which could lead us to conclude that maybe the attackers knew what they were doing. Okay, so next slide, please. So I suppose that you all know what is a ransomware attack, but we could consider a ransomware attack as a violation of availability of your systems, which is a very singular situation of your a very specific or singular scenario from your business continuity plan, since you have the people, because nobody has get injured. You have the facilities, because none of your facilities has been burned or has went down. Okay. Also, you have your network, which is available, and the systems are up and running. But the data that is inside those systems is not available for you. Okay, so this is a very complex scenario that you should consider in your BCPs. Okay, how do they get in? Mainly, they use remote teleworking credentials to enter into the network and then accomplish the work. Okay. But in the last months, we have seen an increase of, instead of using credentials, teleworking credential, also use of vulnerabilities, software vulnerabilities of your system that you have in your external network. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, the key change of the attack was first of all in 15th of July we have a credential theft that was not used until the very 1st of August. At that day, someone from a remote location, but as I told you, friendly location, made a first access with these compromised credentials and entered to our network. Okay, at that point they have let's say 30% of the work done, because just with 2 credentials they are in your network. The next steps are to look for administrative or privileged credential in order to ensure that they are going to be able to accomplish the work they done. Okay, they want to do. Okay, that took them around 7 days, which is let's say above the average. Nowadays, the attacks takes like between 1 or 2 days. But at this time, they took them 7 days, and I can tell you until they got the privilege credential, and I can tell you that the level of noise that they use, okay, is they know how to handle it because they are very proficiency, they are professional of this, and they know how much noise they can do. Okay, as a matter of fact, I can tell you that our Security Operations Center registered over 3,000 million events per day, and we were not able to see at that moment the events that could lead us to the intrusion. Okay, from the 7th of August to the 11th of August, once they have the privileged access, at that point they would have the 50% of the work done. What they do is to analyze you and to study your countermeasure in order to be sure that the attack that they are going to accomplish is going to be successful. Okay, so they accomplished this in 4 days. They analyzed your network infrastructure, they analyzed your security infrastructure, how many IDs you have, what is your antivirus, how it's configured, which is your security personnel, and so on and so on. Okay. When they have all of the information, they try to exfiltrate data in order to push you once they deploy the ransomware, and they play with this time. Okay, they are professional of this, and they do this as a regular basis every 2 weeks. Okay, and you as a company, as a victim, you just face this situation for the very first time. Okay, so you are new. Okay, they tried to exfiltrate data, but they were not successful. So the 14th of August, they decided that they had enough, and once they built the encryptor, the ransomware malware, they deploy the malware to that point, and they keep in the network very active for the next 2 hours in order to be sure that the ransomware was working effectively and that the several workstations were being encrypted. Let me also tell you that in all of these 15 days, what they also do is to introduce Trojans in several places in order to be sure that they are going to be able to avoid your countermeasures once you make the response plan. Okay, this was not new for Mafra. It has been a nightmare in the last in the last 2 years. Ransomware is one of the biggest concerns right now. We also, as in Spain, some other insurance companies were hit, and also even the government, as the SEPE organization that you can see. Okay, I think that there is an inflection point of this situation when the colonial pipeline was affected in the last summer, as this can be very harmful to the countries and societies, and some government has put their eyes on this situation in order to counter-attack this situation. Okay, next slide, please. And about the impact, Andres.
All right. So thank you, Daniel. Next slide, please. I think the first thing you have to understand is that these bad guys, their mission, their objective is to get money from you. So what they are looking for is to cause the biggest or the highest impact on your systems that they can. So they will try to look in your network, as Daniel mentioned, looking for the ways to make an explosion in your network and make your systems unavailable. But also they will look for information they can extract from your IT systems, from your databases, and after that they will also try to blackmail you for not publishing this information in the public or selling that information on the black market. So what they will look for and what they will work for is going through your systems to get the administrative privilege and to be able to shut down your company. So in our case, they got to the administrative privileges of our Windows platform for the company in Spain, and they almost shut down that platform. So luckily, all of our, let's say, core business applications run on Linux and on databases that were not available for the criminals. But our customer services that rely on Windows desktops to be able to provide services to our systems, our call center systems, and our sales network, and also the back office that run on Windows systems, that rely on Windows systems to be able to work. All those systems were shut down. They weren't available to be able to work with them. So this is one of the key things the bad guys are looking for. These are, as Daniel mentioned, those guys are professional, they are organized, and they work, and they know, and they have the tools to be able to make the impact the highest possible, and to be able to, let's say, get the money from the companies that they attack. So they are not, let's say, the typical freakies that we knew from the 80s or even the first 90s. They are professional. They are trying to make business, and they are trying to make money on your cost. So if you can please, can you next slide? Thank you. So you have to be prepared for this kind of attacks, because it's a question of time and effort for these bad guys to be able to, let's say, go through your defenses and attack you and hit you. So you have to be prepared. In our case, we have a business continuity planning and crisis management deployed in our organization, and we test it periodically. Because if you don't test your business continuity plan, it's like if you don't have plans. So, well, you have to test it. You have to make different kind of tests and of exercises of your business continuity plans. And in this case, in 2020, our business continuity plans were, let's say, in full use due to the COVID-19 crisis, because we had to activate them many times during the COVID crisis to avoid the lockdowns and the unavailability of people. So we had a strong business continuity discipline in the company, and we made exercises periodically, so we ensured that our BCPs were up and running when this crisis comes. So next slide, please. So we had many questions when we talk about our incident on how you can manage an incident like this. And the way in which we manage this kind of incidents is you will need people continuously following up the advances of the teams that are responding to the incident. That's our ongoing follow-up group, which is working 24/7, getting the information from the teams that are responding to the incident and preparing the information to the different committees to take the decisions. Because you cannot have the people that is responding to an incident working on preparing information for the committees. It's crazy, because those people are sleeping poorly during the nights. They are using all their time to respond to the attack, to recover from the attack. So you will need people side by side with them, working to prepare the information for the committees, for the decision-making processes, and so on. So we had this team working and prepared, and also on duty because of the COVID-19. So it was, hey, we are responding to the COVID-19. Now you have another thing to respond. So at least they were on duty, they were prepared, and they were responding to other incidents and preparing information for the committee. So our process, our decision process, our crisis management process was, let's say, just well prepared and also responding to another crisis during that moment. So it was something of another importance, of another criticality that had to respond to. But the coordination and the agility that you need during to respond to a crisis like a cyber incident is dramatically different from the COVID-19. From the COVID-19, you have incidents or you have events that occur in a periodicity with a period of days. During the attack, you have to respond to events in hours. So the agility that you need to respond to this kind of attacks and this kind of crisis is much quicker, much higher than to respond to a usual crisis. And next slide, to talk about the response, I will hand again to Daniel. So Daniel.
Thank you, Andres. Okay, so incident response plan should be run in parallel with a business continuity plan. Okay, incident response plan is a key activity with several work streams that also should be run in parallel. Incident response plan should be also run very coordinated with a business continuity plan. Okay, work stream that compose and how we face it, our incident response plan and the business continuity plan. Okay, first of all, containment. Okay, when you have a ransomware attack, you have a scope that has been affected, and you need to keep that scope to the minimum. Okay, the guys that are in your network, they have control of part of the control of your network, and they can go beyond the principal scope. So your main concern is, okay, try to take any countermeasure that would take them down. Okay, and there is no magical plan. Okay, every company should have this at least outlined, because in some companies you can take the network down. In some other companies, you cannot do that. Okay, so this is something that you need to at least try to work before the incident, just to not to think in a crisis situation. Okay, then the second is the work stream is the restoration. Okay, you need to look for a way of try to restore your systems to an state that are operational. Okay, and also you need to do it in a safe way. Okay, and this means that you need to look for to watch out for every step that you do for not messing up a clean environment that you are trying to build. Okay, so you try to define a clean environment, and then you place you continue, or you start placing the system restored in that clean environment. So, and every time you do that, you need to be pretty sure that everything that you do is you do it in a very safe way. Okay, that brings me to the next work stream, which is the forensic analysis. Okay, this is a very critical work stream. No. Can you go backward, please? This is a very key activity. Okay, because this is the. Can you go to the to the previous slide, please. Okay, thank you. Because this is the way that you are going to be able to know what the bad guys has done in your network. Okay, and this is critical for being able to identify all the system that they have took in control, and also what they have done and what tools and techniques they have used. Because if not, then you are going to be, if you don't tap these holes, you are going to be you're going to be able to have a future attack in the future. Okay. As a matter of fact, they use tools and techniques to erase all of the activity because they don't want you to know what they have done in the system and in your network. Okay. Then the network esteem is the reinforcements plan. Okay. Every step you do and every issue that you discover in the forensic plan that address any weakness of your system or your network must have a development plan in order to strengthen your position to this risk. Okay, and last but not least, the communication plan. Okay, you need to have a dedicated resource to be able to address all of the notification and request of information that you are going to have, because when you are in the middle of this attack, all of the attention of your customers, partners, and legal authorities turn into you, which is and that puts you in a pressure that is very high. Okay, next slide, please. So our restoration was made in two principles. First of all, service oriented. Okay, this is something that we had previously defined in our business continuity plan, especially in our business impact analysis, and we addressed that supporting services for our customer was the main activity that we need to have in place in the very beginning. Okay, at this time, payrolls are not important. Commercial activity is not important. We are an insurance company. We are to provide trust and service to our customers, and this is our main and principal and key activities that we had in our minds and that we were working. So the very first system that we had in our list of priorities was all of the systems that were surrounding this principle. Okay. The second, of course, is the security. Okay. You need to take several concerns. Okay. First of all, that when you restore systems need to be clean and not compromised, and that's where a forensic analysis comes into the equation, because with forensic analysis you are able to know when this guy got into your network and when these guys were into several systems. So at this point you can address which is the perfect and exact date on which you can consider that a system was clean and safe. Okay, and also in order to address the security requirements, every security requirement that you identify that need to be in place, also you need to assure that all of the system that you put in available are compliant with this system. Okay, this led us to a restoration speed in our case that it was quick. In just 4 hours, we have our call center running and able to get income request and call of our customers. In just 6 days, we have 95% of our systems up and running. Okay, and we could say that normality was achieved in just 13 days, which is a pretty good situation. Let me tell you that backup systems and business continuity plan are tested on a regular basis periodically. And this is something, the result of this test for both for backup and business continuity plan are reported to the top management every time we do this test. And this is something that the top management takes very seriously. Okay, next slide, please. Forensic analysis, as I told you, is one of the key and central activities where you should focus. You need a specific team that handles this work stream, and the main effort is just to do this. In our case, we focus, or we were supported by 3 different companies. Let me tell you that the situation where when we have the attack was very singular, because most of us we were on holidays and vacation, but the internal people respond very well. But getting people from providers was not easy. Okay, and this is something that you need to take into account. I mean, you need to have a plan A defined, but also you need a plan B or even a plan C. Okay, in our case, we use 3 teams, as I told you. One specific for the forensic analysis. We look for the top firms just to help us and also to be efficient and quick. We also then have another team focusing on focusing on Spain, which was the main affected entity, and trying to identify any compromised system or services that we had in place, identify them, clean them, and getting out of the risk situation. And then we have a 3rd team looking for any external propagation outside of Spain. Okay, we have a very big scope. As I told you before, we are in 34 countries, and any of those countries could be a place where the malware guns could be hidden, just looking for their future opportunity. And the result of the forensic analysis was that the only affected location was Spain. There was no external propagation to any other countries, and also as a result and a conclusion of the analysis report was that there was no data breach exfiltration, since we saw attempts but not successful exfiltration. Okay, and let me tell you that, and probably you know that, because in a large company, identifying which is right and is wrong is not easy. Okay, because you could tell that any data transfer to some risky countries could be or any communication with these risky countries could be an alert of something wrong is happening. Well, in our case, we have providers all around the world, and even for countries that where we do not operate, and identifying that is not an easy task. Okay, next slide, please. Andres.
Right. So just you have to think, or you have to into account that in the short term, before you are not able to expel the attacker from your network, you have to work on thinking that the attacker can put you out of business again at any moment. So we defined a strengthening plan, which mainly oriented to get 3 objectives. The first of all is, hey, we have to enhance our preventive actions, our preventive measures, in order to be able to protect against this kind of attacks in the future. So we defined short-term measures and long-term. So you are able to detect and prevent any other attack in the midterm. The other one objective was to reduce the scope in case of other attacks, because if your network, if your company, if your systems are all together interconnected and so on, an attack can probably put out all that systems. So we are now in a process of de-aerization. The word in English is quite difficult, but it's just main containments in order to make an attack less able to expand to other parts of our network. So one of the key points is during that days, is the attacker is inside. If they want to put us out again, let's reduce the scope of systems they can take out. So that's the second point. And the third one is to increase the speed of your restoration capabilities. So you can restore quickly and quicker than the first moment. So we defined and we put in place measures during those days in order to prevent the attack to cause the same impact. So that's the key point of this slide. And we also define, and we will talk of that in a moment, of the many other measures for the medium and long term. So in the next slide, please. One of the key points that I think it was great is that MAPFRE decided to be transparent with the cyber attack we were suffering. So this is, I think the market, the sector recognized this effort. I think we were probably one of the first companies to recognize that we were suffering a cyber attack and making it public. So the key point is that customers, and the good point is that customers received the news very well, and they were very understanding with what was happening to us, and they I think they recognize and they value they give value to the transparency that we showed. But there is a counterpart on that kind of transparency, is that everybody will ask you to know the extent and the amount and the impact that the attack had. So, as Danny mentioned a few minutes ago, we had to put people specifically, and your communications department is not enough to respond to the questions of the customers and of the regulators, because you have to inform them of what was happening. So as you all know, we have a restriction on the time to inform of a cyber attack, and you have to report to the regulators that you suffered an attack and the impact of them. So I think in Europe, you have 72 hours from the privacy perspective with the GDPR, but in the first 72 hours, you will know nothing about the attack, more than that you've been hit and that you are not able to access to your systems. So the frequency of the communications with the regulators was very, very high. We communicated with them the day after. We suffered the attack on the night of 14th. The 15th of August, we were talking to the regulators in Spain and in the insurance sector and the privacy agency. So the communication is a key point, that it's in the books, but until you don't suffer an attack, you don't know how important and how critical the communication is. So next slide.
Yeah. As a conclusion, our lesson learned, okay, cybersecurity risk, I think this is not something that is not new to anyone that is in the meeting. This is an emergency, an emerged risk. And I always say that ransomware is the digital pandemic of the new normality, and this is something that has come to stay, and that would be a problem at least for a while. Okay, you need to reinforce digital identity for people and devices. Okay, this is your perimeter is not defined anymore by your firewalls. Okay, people do teleworking. People do access to data that is outside your data centers, and they in the past to plug a system or a server in your network, someone would have to go to a data center. Now they can do remotely from Australia or from any remote place. They can create a server in your network, and this is something that you need to take into account to this new environment. Okay, this leads us to an increase of the demand for the security basis. This is something that is, especially in large companies with different subsidiaries. This is something that you need to take into account. The level of your security is the level of your worst subsidiary that you have around the world, and this is something that you need to take into account. There is no anymore an approach of 80-20. Okay, focus on the big and leave the small subsidiaries. No, I mean, you need to define a very tight and high and level of security, and all of your subsidiaries need to be accomplished with this. Okay. One of the key points that we understood, even though that we were, let's say, mature on that, is that monitoring is a key point for addressing and nowadays attack. Okay, you need to have capacity to react to an attack. It's not a matter of if you are going to be hit. It's a matter of when are you going to be hit, and at that moment, all of you need to have all of your homework done. Okay, there is no time for building a security operations center at that time. You need to have it at that time. Okay. Nowadays, data is one of the key points of companies, but especially in insurance company, that we manage huge amount of data. Okay, control over that data is critical to succeed. Okay, our business is made out of data. It comes from the actuary. I mean, when they talk about big data, from some companies could be a new. From insurance company is something that we have to deal for a while. Okay, and that we did in the past, and that led us to a very risky situation, because you have to be able to protect all of those data. One of our main concerns was any data exfiltration, and we find out that we didn't have any data exfiltration, but we need to improve in our data security. Okay, security also need to be a fundamental part of any new system, any new environment, any new initiative that comes into the company, because any initiative that comes into a company, I'm pretty sure that is going to be linked to cloud data or third-party providers that at some point they are going to be handling system or data that you need to address. Okay. Also, another point, and I think that in the insurance company, in the insurance sector, it's a must that we have that we are one step back from the banks, is to reinforce the security culture. Okay, this is something that the banks has done very well in the past, probably because from their when they were born, they were keeping the money from the bad guys, and this is something that was not in the foundation of the insurance. But nowadays, insurance company and banking are getting close. The requirement for them is getting closer, and this is something that you need to put not also in your system and in your network, but also in the people. People need to be aware that security is a must at any point. Okay. And for this first round, also keeping you enough resources, because you need to and capabilities, because even though that from a regular basis you would think that you are over resources, but this is like a fireman situation. Okay, once you have the fire, you need to have resources and enough resources to deal with this situation, and that will lead you to have some resources to be kept in the future, just in case. Okay, next slide, please. And as the last two conclusions, Andres was telling, transparency and communication is a key point, because nowadays with Twitter, social networks, and even with providers, at some point, people is going to know that you have been hit by a ransomware. So you better tell first and be transparent, or you could be in a very singular situation that could lead to have several impacts. So our recommendation is to be transparent. It's painful, it's hard, but in the long term, by far, is the best decision that you can take. Okay, and the last point has to do with the testing and the planification of these scenarios. These scenarios should be part of your business continuity plan and also be part of your crisis management runbook. You need to address this kind of situation. You are not going to be able to have the 100% of a scenario, but I'm sure that if you address the 90% of the scenario, then you are going to be more efficient in the decision-making process in the future, and you also will be able to avoid errors, at least with less probability. Okay, and this was all for us.
And just to finish our presentation, we would like to finish with a little bit of humor around the ransomware. And the sad thing about this picture is that it depicts the future. So I led you this slide for all of you. And my favorite one is the broomstick. The broomstick one is like crazy. Is the broomstick blackmailing you for not telling your friends that you are stupid enough to buy an internet connected broom. So that's for you, and thank you very much for your time. Pascal, or yours.
Thank you very much, Andres, and Danielle. That's, I think, been a really good presentation, and I will be prepared now to be subjected to ransomware by any of the tools in my home. So I will watch the microwave particularly carefully. Anyway, so I think, and seriously, that was really good, really thought-provoking, and certainly it will have given everyone listening, I think, a very good feel, for both what we're up against and also some of the things that we can do to prepare ourselves. So maybe I can just sort of before closing, just throw sort of a couple of very quick questions at you, and it's sort of almost a sort of 60 seconds quick fire response, if you wouldn't mind. So maybe the first one to Daniel, if that's okay. In your opinion, Daniel, how should a well-balanced cyber strategy be defined? And apologies that 60 seconds isn't much for a cyber strategy, but
okay.
Over to you.
I will try to be quick. Okay, so cybersecurity has been focused in the last years just on protect and prevent attacks. Okay, we need to focus also in detect and respond. Okay, as I said before, it's not a matter of if I'm going to be attacked, it's when and if I'm being prepared. Okay, also a second point that you need to balance is ISO 27001 are good approaches from the top level, and I think that we need those kind of approaches, but at the same time we need to develop more agile and quick approaches. Okay, for instance, if you know that there is a gang, a ransomware gang that is hitting insurance company or a Spanish company, you need to be able to gather intelligence from that gang, what we call tactics, techniques, and procedures, and to be able to adapt your systems in order to be able to detect and prevent that kind of attacks. So in a nutshell, I would say both of them.
Fantastic, thank you. One question for Andres. What, Andres, are the trends that you're seeing in cyber attacks? I mean, obviously, sort of, ransomware is rather popular at the moment, but what others maybe should we expect to be hitting us?
Well, as I mentioned, cyber attacks is, or in our case, in the case of the insurance and banking sector, I think the objective of the attackers is getting money. So the trends in attacks are those that will make more money for the attackers. And the best examples of that are what we call business email compromise, that has a more sexy name as the CEO fraud, which is people pretending to be one of your top managers, writing emails or even WhatsApps or whatever to people from the staff to try to convince them to make a transfer or to change a bank account number or something like that in order to get money from them. So this is one of the main attacks that we will suffer in the next months, or we are suffering it, but we will continue to suffer it. The other one is denial of services, but the denial of service is like a blackmail. So they will try to switch off your internet connections to exhaust your bandwidth and to ask for money to not do it again. We didn't have any single denial of service attack prior to the COVID-19 crisis, but with telework, the number of denial of services attack spreading and going over the internet is crazy. So I think they are profitable for the attackers, and they will continue to do it and increase the frequency and the importance of them. And the last one is ransomware, because ransomware is very profitable for the attackers. The money they get from the companies, but also the information they are able to steal from the companies and selling after that information, the black market, it's going to be the let's say the cyber attack or the cyber risk by excellence for them.
Thank you very much. And so I guess sort of in summary, it's a mixture of the old and the new. And we never quite know what's going to hit us next. So, well, thank you both very, very much. I think that's been a really great session. It's given us an enormous amount to think about. And I particularly liked Daniel's point about that ransomware being was it digital pandemic of the new normal. Yeah, I think that's a really good way of capturing where we are. And the need to be prepared. And I think just linking back to what we were hearing from the regulator earlier, clearly the regulators are expecting that level of preparation as well. They're obviously thinking about the system, they're thinking about the customers, and everyone's got to be protected. So maybe I can sum up by saying, with that lovely phrase, was it preparation now avoids perspiration later, which I think just shows that it's always good to be prepared. So on behalf of our audience this morning, can I say a huge thank you to both our speakers, for a really, really informative session. So thank you.